Hey folks, Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today, continuing the Swamp Thing read-along with Swamp Thing number 60. We are in the home stretch here, folks. Alan Moore wrote Swamp Thing up to issue 64. That's his last issue, so this is it. Five issues left, including this one. And oh boy, it is a humdinger. This is probably the strangest, most esoteric issue of the run, and I'm telling you right now, I guarantee when I first read this comic back, 7-8 years ago, I probably hated it. I had no idea what to make of it, couldn't make heads or tails of it. Going through it this time, I had a much better reaction. I do think that this comes off a little bit pretentious, but this is also very much him trying something brand new, and I do have to applaud that. He's throughout his run been changing comics and what you expect from a comic book already, and this issue is so unlike anything else that could possibly have been coming out in 1987. Even today, you'd be hard-pressed to find something this experimental. From the cover, you can tell right away things are going to be very different. It even announces brand new format, special price. They have switched the quality of paper. I don't know if it's Baxter paper. It might be Baxter, but it's definitely a higher quality paper. We have a weird photo frame here. I think they were doing weird stuff like this for Ronin as well. So there'd be occasional these picture frame covers, and the covers by not by Alan Moore. The covers by John Totleben, who does the interiors as well, sets the tone. And when you first open this and you read this first page, you really don't know what's going on. I'm going to tell you what's happening in this issue up front, because if you read this, maybe you don't know what the hell you just read. So knowing up front, maybe that'll help. So we are hearing a bedtime story. There is a giant alien island that's mostly it's a mix of machinery and biology floating in space, who is telling this story to its unborn children of how she met their father. This is How I Met Your Father, Swamp Thing edition, a space alien Swamp Thing edition. And we get right off the bat that this art's going to be unlike anything that we've seen previously. Having John Totleben, I don't know, I can't remember if Totleben has done a single issue by himself in the past, but if he did, it didn't look anything like this. Pretty much every page is either a full splash or even a full spread, and it really calls to mind H.R. Giger to me, that mix of man and machine or biology and machine. And this island, who is there even a name given? I can't remember. It may have gotten lost in all of the words, but it's talking about how she was lonely and could not find any organism in space to give her children, until the lucky day where she picked up Swamp Thing on her sensors. The name of the issue is Loving the Alien, written by Alan Moore with art by John Totleben. Worth noting is John Costanza is not doing the lettering here because of the nature of the story being this weird technological alien thing. The type is set by Richard Bruning, and it is very much typeset, which works for the theme here. It works for the setting and for the characters. And we get our first of many images that call to mind the biological function of sex and sexual intercourse. We've got these obviously sperm-like machine creature things. This right here, I'm pretty sure that's the island. I think that's the mother island. Fairly certain of that. And the island is talking about how other aliens have come through her space in the past, and she's tried to do something with them, but it never takes. And she's absorbed their bodies and their essences and left them to rot and die just within her. So we see some skeletons here of these aliens that were not fortunate to pass through her. And then one day she picks up what we know as Swamp Thing, and this foreign entity, she's able to kind of cling on to, grasp, and pull within her, inside her, so that she can hope to reproduce. And to give you a glimpse of the actual writing here and how dense this can be, because this is completely from the point of view of this alien who has their own way of speaking, their own way of thinking about the universe. It can be very hard to parse. So I'll just start here. This is how it views Swamp Thing. It was symmetrical, its optic canopies two burning wounds in the darkness of their surround. Beneath that, its features were a jumble of indecipherable organs and components for which I had no name. And yet those eyes transfixed me, skewered me with their intensity, their great passion. The vision faded almost before it had formed, the intelligence behind it entering the root clusters and cogs and deep cables of my substance like grounded lightning. Almost subliminally, I noted that there was a fold in the fabric of time at this juncture, and knew that at some point in my future would find me performing a chronofracture. But this minor revelation was driven from my mind as my probes grasped blindly for some tangible evidence of the intruder. There was none. The intruder possessed no body. He was a ghost that swam through clockwork. And we have the recurring imagery of clockwork, of this creature. That's kind of just like, we get like little notations of like circles that kind of give us a sense of gears and mechanism that are going to be repeated. And then we get this incredible spread page here where Swamp Thing is given a body made up of components of this mother island. And so he's got like the gears and stuff built into him. And the artwork is so striking. It kind of reminds me of Clive Barker's work. Have you ever seen Clive Barker's art? It looks very similar to this, just like the scratchy, heavy blacks. And I almost want to say, I think maybe it's too simple to say like Bill Sienkiewicz comes to mind as well, with these backgrounds that are very abstract. And what's happening on this page is our mother island alien is not just creating a body for Swamp Thing, it's also pulling out memories from him and like getting senses of his experiences, so it can sense the presence of someone whose upper extremity was shrouded by a mass of white strands. Experiencing a powerful erotic impulse, albeit vicariously, I wondered if this could be the female of the species. That those massive white strands, that's white hair. So it's getting the image of Abby from Swamp Thing, but doesn't know what a human being is. So it doesn't know how to describe that. It's also remembering like the vampires from Rosewood. Was it Rosewood? It's pulling images of half arachnid form. That's Anton Arcane. So it's also picking up memories from Swamp Thing as it's doing this. And our alien is like in love. It's so happy to have these senses from Swamp Thing kind of becoming part of them, to be something that they can experience as well. And it starts to send like little probes into Swamp Thing's body, and we get more of this imagery of like enduring because this is I guess I buried this lead. This is basically an issue about Swamp Thing being raped by a space alien. So that entrance into the body is very much so something that's frequently recurring here in the imagery. Swamp Thing passes through and is trying to kind of escape, I guess. This is a little bit abstract, so I'm doing my best to kind of parse out what's going on here. I think he's trying to get out. He passes through one part of the body, exits another, And then we have this obviously very sexual imagery of the opening like zipper and another little like sperm particle coming out. This is where the mother performs a chronofracture, something messing with time to her own benefit, and we get more of those little clocks and gears and stuff like that. And I think what's happening is that she's resetting time in such a way that it delays Swamp Thing in being able to leave and allows her to kind of trap him where she needs him. This is such an interesting page that it's like impossible to tell what's going on. I think this is the depiction of the fracturing of time. I try to pick out like where something might be. I think I see Swamp Thing's face maybe there. I think maybe those are eyes. Maybe that's his canopied like mouth. It's just so weird. I don't know how Totleben is like doing this. It's such an interesting idea for a comic book, and I wonder if other people find it to be successful, because it is really risky. Like, there's a lot being described here that we don't get to see. It's all our imagination being mixed with the single images that Totleben is creating for us. Swamp Thing is pinned down and sliced open from throat to abdomen, and we could see he's being pulled apart, and now the Mother Island is forcing itself into his body, which obviously we're completing that sex rape metaphor. And here is where the fusion is complete, and at this point, she can start draining Swamp Thing of like all of his essences, all of his juices and his life force and everything like that. She takes in everything and discards what's remaining of the physical body as just a husk. And I mean, she's using his genetic material to fertilize herself. So these eggs, which have lain dormant, are finally being fertilized. She's gonna be a mommy. Like, she's finally gonna fulfill her dream of doing that. And in this happening, Swamp Thing's finally able to regain control of himself, regain some autonomy, and he bounces. He gets out of there as soon as he's able to, and he escapes before he even knows what just happened to him. On this page, this is a nice page where the mother is musing on whether or not, if Swamp Thing had stayed, would he have been able to love the children that he created? Like, would he have recognized himself in them? Would they look like him? It's just a weird idea, like this weird embryo kind of shape, but full of gears, but also distinctly like having a body shape to it. Weird stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I think of Giger as that melding of man and machine. The Swamp Thing does escape, and he launches his ghost back out through space, because this was a very weird episode for him. I wonder if he's even going to remember it. I don't actually know that. They mention here that he might not even know what happened to him or know that anything happened. But yeah, he gets out, and the mother talks about how she's basically talking to the embryos within her, telling them this story of how she met Swamp Thing, and how when they are born, she's going to basically explode and launch them across the galaxy to, live their life that way and to spread in that fashion. I have no idea if this ever comes back in DC lore. Might be kind of cool if it ever did, if somebody wanted to pick up that thread. But yeah, that is it. She finishes telling the story, and we move on. Next, All Flesh is Grass. That is Swamp Thing number 60. What a weird and wild comic book. Let me know your thoughts about this one, because, like I said, it's bold, it's interesting, the art is terrific, and the story, once you know what's going on, is pretty good. But yeah, it does kind of ring as a little bit pretentious. I have to admit that. So let me know. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Very curious. We'll be back next week with issue 61. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. But now it's time to get back to reading.